Miyamura was an introverted emo boy whom no one cared about, so he finally stopped simping for the girl. Then, his life changed. The school baddie became obsessed with him, and every girl at school started wanting his attention. The story started in Professor Yasuda's class, who told the students to do as much yoga as they can this year's summer holidays, because next summer, they would be busy preparing for college entrance. After class ended, Hori talked with her friends about how Yasuda sometimes said strange things. She told them that before class, he saw her in the hallway, and seeing her sad face, tried to cheer her up by saying he liked girls who looked like tables. At the same time, her friend Yuki told her that a boy was asking for Hori's contact, but Hori immediately refused and said if he could not talk to her face to face, he should practice staying away. Their friend Toro invited them to karaoke, but Hori refused that too. When she stood up, her phone fell, and Miyamura, passing by, quietly picked it up and gave it to her without saying anything, then left the class. They all talked about Miyamura, wondering what kind of boy he was, but since he never talked to anyone, he was a mystery to everyone. Hori ran home. When she reached home, she changed into her home clothes and started cleaning. Then she picked up her little brother Suda from school and started washing clothes at home. After some time, Suda came inside with a nosebleed and another boy, so Hori immediately started taking care of him in a panic. The boy got up to leave, but Hori stopped him and told him to stay a little longer so she could thank him properly for helping Suda. He told her that a dog chased Suda and he fell while running, so he brought him home because he got scared on the way. When Hori asked his name, he got surprised and told her that they were in the same class. This sad-looking boy was actually Miyamura, who looked completely different at school. The next day in class, Hori could not believe that the boy from yesterday was really Miyamura. She told him to come to her house again because her little brother wanted to play with him. Miyamura thought Hori would never talk to him again after seeing him like that, but Hori said she also became a completely different person outside school, so she did not find it strange when others changed. Hearing this, Miyamura had a small smile on his face, because after his mother, it was the first time someone listened to him with patience. Hori praised his smile and told him he would look good if he tied his hair up, but Miyamura said then all his holes and piercings would be visible. After school, Hori found out that Miyamura was not the kind of person she thought. He was not an otaku or a strange person, but his family ran a cake shop. He told her he pierced his ears himself with a safety pin in middle school, and his grades were even lower than his confidence. Later, when Hori was sitting at home looking at a grocery ad, she realized she had always had the wrong idea about Miyamura. When Miyamura leaned closer to check Suda's injury, Hori noticed for the first time that his eyes were very beautiful and his eyelashes were long. While talking, Miyamura told her that eggs would be on sale until 4 o'clock tomorrow, so Hori decided she would buy a lot of eggs after school. The next day after class, Hori was called to the AV room, so she messaged Miyamura to go and buy the eggs for her. Only 20 minutes were left, so Miyamura immediately ran from school and decided to jump the fence to take a shortcut. On the way, he ran into Yuki, who was shocked to see him like that, but before she could understand, he moved ahead. At night, Hori cooked food for him, and he told her that he ran into Yuki on the way, but since he was not wearing glasses and his hair was down, he was sure Yuki did not recognize him. Hori herself did not know why, but she did not want other people to see Miyamura in that look. Miyamura felt the same way and smiled, saying he liked watching Hori do housework and cook. He calmly started listing all the small things he noticed about Hori outside school, so Hori got embarrassed and quickly gave him a drink to make him stop talking. She could not believe Miyamura listed all her favorite things so seriously, so she kept calling him stupid in a light way to hide her shyness. Miyamura slowly started to understand that Hori was actually a very normal, simple girl, and he found her very sweet in that simplicity. The next day, he came to class looking worried and told Hori that in the next PE class, everyone had to swim. Hori did not understand at first why he was so upset. Then Miyamura showed her that he had tattoos all over his arms and body, which he did not want to show in front of everyone. Later, they found out that swimming was not compulsory but optional, but even then, Miyamura's stress did not go away because now he was more sensitive about his body than before. Standing on the class balcony, the two of them were talking, and from a distance, Toru and Yuki watched and wondered when and how these two became friends. At that moment, a classmate came to Hori to ask for notes, so Toru used the chance to start talking to Miyamura. He directly asked if Hori and Miyamura were in a relationship. Miyamura quickly said they were just friends and did not even match as a couple. Then, in a light way, he asked if Toru himself liked Hori. He asked as a joke, but when Toru seriously admitted that he liked Hori, Miyamura also understood why Toru always looked at Hori in class. While they were still processing all this, another student passed by and reminded them that PE class was about to start. In the changing room, instead of changing into PE clothes like everyone else, Miyamura put on his long-sleeved winter uniform again, which looked strange. Miyamura did not want everyone staring at him, so he could not stay quiet and showed Toru his arms, where there were tattoos everywhere. Toru was shocked at first, but then understood why Miyamura never wore short sleeves even in summer. When he he moved Miyamura's hair and saw the holes and piercings in his ears, he was even more surprised. Later, Toru asked him why he did not just accept this side of himself, and Miyamura calmly said he did all this out of stubbornness in middle school, and it did not have any deep meaning. Toru asked how he got so close to Hori, and Miyamura simply answered that everything started when he brought Suda home. Then Toru, a little shy, asked if it would bother Miyamura if he liked Hori and wanted to confess to her. Miyamura clearly said the decision would be Hori's, and he had no problem with it. After class, Yuki scolded Toru for skipping PE class, and at the same time, Miyamura remembered what Toru had said to him. When Miyamura started walking a little away from Hori, she called him out and asked why he was trying to avoid her, but Miyamura could not tell her the real reason. At that moment, Toru came and told Hori he wanted to meet her alone after school, and without giving details, walked away. The problem for Hori was that she had to pick up her brother at that time, so Miyamura stepped forward and said he would bring Suda home today so Toru could have a chance to talk to Hori. Later, Toru gathered his courage and confessed his feelings to Hori, while Miyamura looked after Suda at home. When Hori came back, Miyamura had already decided in his heart that maybe he should not come to this house again, because he thought now Hori and Toru would become a couple. But Hori directly asked him if he really thought they were not right for each other. Miyamura got nervous and started explaining that he said that because he saw himself as a sad, colorless person, and he was afraid that being with him would ruin Hori's reputation. Hearing this, Hori's eyes filled with tears, and she cried and scolded him for deciding by himself that he was not good enough for her without asking her. Slowly, her sadness turned into anger, and she told him in a harsh tone that if he ever tried to stay away from her again on his own, she would not tolerate it at all and would keep him close to her no matter what. A few days later, when Miyamura helped her carry grocery bags, Hori started humming an anime song for fun. When Miyamura praised her voice, she got shy and stopped singing, then made an excuse that Suda always played these CDs, so she remembered all the lyrics. When Miyamura asked her what kind of music she liked, she got confused, as if he had asked her a very hard question. When they got home and opened the door, suddenly her mother Yuriko appeared. After a while, Suda excitedly told her that Miyamura often came home and played with him. Yuriko laughed and asked if this boy was good looking or not, so Hori carelessly said he was just a boy who looked like a hero. Her mother said with interest that she also wanted to meet Miyamura someday, but Hori already guessed her mother would definitely say something embarrassing, so she got worried. When Yuriko asked her Miyamura's full name, Hori panicked because she realized she had spent so much time with him, but still did not know his first name. The next day at school, she spent all her time thinking about how to ask his name. She did not want to go and ask directly, afraid she would look too clingy, so she dropped the idea. When the boys were in the changing room, she tried to peek from a distance to see if anyone called him by his first name, but then got scared people would think she was a weird girl. In the evening, she checked the results sheet for the names of smart students, hoping to find Miyamura's full name, but she did not find anything there either. When Toru appeared, Hori tried to use the chance to ask him Miyamura's full name, but he was still avoiding her after being rejected and ran away. Hori got frustrated and went home, but then thought if Miyamura introduced himself fully in front of her mom, the problem would solve itself, so she decided to invite him over. The next day, Miyamura came to her house, and Yuriko welcomed him warmly and told him Hori and Suda had gone out for some work. After a while, Suda came back, so Yuriko left him with Miyamura and went to work. When Hori returned, she realized her mom had sent her out on purpose so she could spend time alone with Miyamura. Miyamura told her Yuriko was very polite and one of the few people who called him by his first name. When Hori insisted and asked which name her mom used, Miyamura immediately understood what Hori had been confused about for days and stopped her to ask why she was doing all this. Remembering her peeking near the changing room, he joked and asked if she had a crush on some boy, so Hori had no choice but to tell the truth. Miyamura laughed so hard at all this that his stomach hurt, then calmed down and wrote his full name on a slip, Izumi Miyamura, and gave the slip to Hori. Hori decided in her heart to keep this slip with her and, shy, thought it was better to keep calling him Miyamura. For the first time, she tried to call him Izumi, but immediately got embarrassed. At the same time, she asked him if he knew her first name, and Miyamura smiled and said he knew her full name from the start. The next day, the student council president Sengoku and Sakura gave Hori a new task, and when she agreed, they immediately asked her to do another extra job too. By evening, Yuki saw that there were bags and shadows under Hori's eyes. She was so tired from doing too much work. Yuki worriedly said the student council was using her, but Hori smiled and said as long as she was being useful to someone, she did not mind. From a distance, Toru and Miyamura watched all this and quietly decided that simple-minded people like them probably could not help, so it was better to stay away. In their talk, Miyamura also said Sengoku was quite popular among girls, and joked that maybe Hori was working so hard because she wanted Sengoku to think she was special. When Remi, a tiny girl, came to class, Hori returned some books to her. As soon as Remi left, Toru said without thinking that she was quite cute, cute, so Yuki told him she was Sengoku's girlfriend. She was not very good at studies, so she mostly walked around with the student council like a mascot. Hori clearly said the work she just did for Remy was actually Remy's responsibility, but the council was putting all the burden on Hori. After saying this, she left for home, and Miyamura thought to himself that he would bake a cake for her to cheer her up. At that moment, in the corridor, Remy suddenly bumped into him and dropped all her books. In a panic, she quickly picked up the books and ran away, but one book was left behind, which Miyamura picked up. Miyamura called out to Remy to take the book, but she carelessly said to throw it in the trash. Miyamura got curious and opened the book and found out it was the student council's budget report. The next day, when he came to class, he saw a crowd of students outside the door. He found out Remy had put all the blame on Hori, saying she lost the budget report. Hori kept explaining she did not lose anything, but Sengoku believed his girlfriend and told Hori to apologize. Miyamura, knowing the truth, pushed through the crowd, stopped Sengoku in front of everyone, then showed the missing report and clearly said the book was actually left behind by Remy. It was not Hori's fault. When Remy realized the truth, she got embarrassed and started crying. One day, the class teacher told all the students to make groups in pairs, but Miyamura was left alone again. He was the same lonely emo boy no one wanted to be with. When the teacher told the other kids to include him, they made faces and said he was weird and smelled like sour milk. Later, the same thing kept happening to him in middle school, so he always felt very lonely and broken inside. On the way home, he decided to change himself to make himself look at least cool from the outside. In high school, people still thought Miyamura was a weird boy, but one day Hori herself came to him, introduced herself, and laughed, saying everyone thought he was very dark and quiet, but she found him completely normal. This was their first proper conversation. On the first day of the third year, all the students gathered at the notice board to check their class. Hori was happy she was in class 1 with Yuki. Miyamura and Toru were also in the same class, so some girls whispered that these two looked like a proud couple. After a while, Hori and Yuki also came, and they all talked about normal things, and Miyamura felt for the first time that he was part of this group. Later in class, when the teacher told him to make groups of 4, Miyamura remembered the old pain of always being left alone, but this time, Toru, Yuki, and Hori themselves joined their desks with his and divided the work between the 4 of them, and Miyamura did not even need to say anything. Later, when Miyamura was sitting on the school roof, he realized he now had a group too, but he wondered in his heart if he could really call them friends. At that moment, Toru came and told him the next period was not math but economics, and complained that the school should tell them earlier. Everything was changed at the last minute. Then Toru started talking a lot, but when he suddenly asked Miyamura for his opinion, Miyamura realized he had not listened to a single word. Miyamura directly asked him what he thought about him. Toru told him honestly that his mysterious, quiet attitude was sometimes very annoying. Then he said Miyamura was too soft-hearted, so he had to keep an eye on him, and when he tied his hair, he looked prettier than many girls, which annoyed Toru even more. In the end, he laughed and said yes. Miyamura was quite weird, but it was okay because they were friends. Later, Hori got angry at both of them for not finishing the report yet and asked where they had been. Toru proudly said they were making their friendship stronger. The next day, when they met at the school lockers, Toru realized they still did not call each other by their first names. That morning, Suda woke Hori up and insisted she take him to school. She left for school and saw she arrived very early. At that moment, Ayasaki also came and sat with her. They started talking about Miyamura, and Ayasaki laughed and said Hori and Miyamura looked just like a couple. Hori quickly said they were just friends, so Ayasaki jokingly asked if she could get close to Miyamura herself. Hearing this, Hori immediately changed her attitude and clearly said she would not let her get close to Miyamura. At that moment, 2 girls entered the cafe, so Hori quickly left so there would not be any scene. In the evening, Hori realized her brother spent more time studying and playing, so usually only she and Miyamura were at home. They sat together and watched a horror movie. Hori sat calmly, but Miyamura got scared at every jump scare. Suddenly, the lights went out and he got even more scared, but after a while, the lights came back and Hori started looking for the next horror movie. When she was putting in the new disc, Miyamura remembered the day Yuki laughed and said Hori's fingers were double jointed. That day, Yuki and Hori were comparing hand sizes and Toru wanted to join for fun, but Hori strictly told him not to touch her hand. Remembering that evening, Hori and Miyamura also started comparing their hand sizes. Hori put her hand on top of Miyamura's hand to measure, but while doing it, she ended up holding his hand. At that moment, she accidentally said she loved Miyamura. Hori quickly tried to cover it up and, laughing to hide her embarrassment, said she just loved his strong, manly hands. Miyamura also smiled and said he liked Hori's hands a lot too. For a short time, there was a very soft and sweet moment between them. At that moment, Suda came home, so Miyamura took him to the bathroom to give him a bath and they washed their hands together. The next day, Ayasaki told Sakura about the cafe incident and said she was just joking. She did not know Hori would get so serious. They did not know Toru was listening from behind and was feeling sad inside. Later, Miyamura came to class with a bruise on his face face, but he avoided telling the reason. After Hori kept asking, he finally admitted he had a fight with Toru. Hori immediately decided Toru needed to be taught a lesson. But when Toru entered the class, he was even more injured and covered in bruises than Miyamura. Later, Yuki asked curiously what really happened. Miyamura said after the first punch, he dodged every hit from Toru, and the more Toru tried to hit him, the worse he got beaten up himself. On the other hand, when Hori tried to talk to Toru alone, he only said he got badly beaten and did not tell the real story. A few days later, Toru was going to school when suddenly some files and reports fell on him from above. He looked up and saw Sakura in the window, who had dropped everything. Toru picked up all the reports and returned them to her, and she thanked him. He asked how she managed so much work, and Sakura said Remi and Sengoku helped her. Later, Miyamura brought ice cream for Toru and said Hori had sent it for both of them. But Toru did not like melon-flavored ice cream at all, so they stopped Sengoku and forced him to eat that ice cream. Miyamura and Sengoku enjoyed comparing the color of their tongues with the ice cream flavor, and Toru stood aside making fun of them, saying he got nothing. While talking, they also joked about Toru's long, snake-like tongue, and Sengoku laughed and said he would go tell Sakura about it. When Toru asked who Sakura was, Sengoku said she was the green-haired girl in the student council with him. Miyamura and Toru teased Sengoku that all his partners in the student council were girls, but he seriously said it was all just for work, nothing else. Fed up with the heat, when they complained, Sengoku gave them permission to use the student council room's AC. The next day, the whole group sat there, and Hori was sent with Miyamura to get drinks. Meanwhile, Aisaki quietly asked Toru if Hori and Miyamura were in a relationship. Toru got nervous and did not give a straight answer because the situation was actually a bit complicated. When Aisaki said she thought Toru was a better match for Hori, Yuki immediately interrupted and told Toru to stop dreaming. It was never going to happen. Sakura quickly understood that Toru had feelings for Hori. When everyone was sitting in the student council room waiting for Hori and Miyamura, Sakura laughed and hinted that maybe those two were doing something suspicious alone somewhere, which made Toru's face more and more anxious with every passing moment. When Hori and Miyamura finally came back with cold drinks, Miyamura seriously started telling Toru why they were late, but Toru immediately covered his ears, thinking he might hear something very wrong. Everyone else joined in the joke and started teasing Toru, and as soon as he absent-mindedly opened the can, all the drinks spilled on his shirt. Sakura came to him and calmly explained they were only late because Miyamura spilled the coke, then gave him a cloth to clean his shirt. Later at Hori's house, Miyamura and Hori were sitting together doing homework, and Hori said her AC was broken. Miyamura casually said he usually slept without clothes in such heat. As soon as he said it, the atmosphere became awkward. Hori thought to herself that Miyamura really did not feel much shame about his body, so she directly asked if she could see his tattoos. Without thinking, Miyamura immediately started unbuttoning his shirt, so Hori got annoyed at him for never thinking about why she was asking such things. Then she purposely started saying random, embarrassing things just to see Miyamura get uncomfortable. But finally, Miyamura got fed up and told her to stop saying such nonsense. He seriously asked why she was acting so weird today, so Hori quietly said she just wanted to know what actually made him feel embarrassed. She thought about how Miyamura always stayed so calm, while she herself got nervous over small things and her mind went all over the place. To make her feel better, Miyamura decided to share something that made him nervous too. He said a few days ago, he met a boy named Shindo, who was his friend from middle school. They started walking together, and seeing Miyamura's nervous face, Hori remembered that he was actually Miyamura's. Well, past that, she did not know anything about. The next day, when Hori was coming home with groceries, she ran into Shindo on the way. On the other side, Miyamura and Toru were walking home talking about a new CD they bought from the shop. Toru saw Hori from a distance, and when Miyamura saw her standing and talking with Shindo, he ran straight over and lightly hit Shindo on the head. Then, in front of everyone, he introduced Shindo as a second-year student, and from his tone, it was clear Shindo had repeated a year and failed his class. Then they all went to sit in a nearby restaurant, where Miyamura started remembering his first meeting with Shindo. At that time, Shindo could not say his name properly, and that was how they started talking, and it was Miyamura's first real conversation with anyone in middle school. Slowly, Shindo started coming to him and talking about his likes, hobbies, and things, and they found out they were both fans of the same singer. One day, Shindo's friends advised him to stay away from Miyamura because they thought quiet and isolated boys like him would grow up to be dangerous types. But Shindo clearly refused and told them to mind their own business. In this way, Shindo and Miyamura slowly became true friends, and because of that, middle school was not as bad for Miyamura as it could have been. Now he thought that just like Shindo made his middle school bearable, Hori made his high school life better. The next day, Hori got a high fever, and Suda got very worried because their mother was out at work. When Hori tried to get ready for school, Suda forced her to lie in bed and seriously told her not to die before he came back from school. After taking medicine, Hori fell asleep and started dreaming about all the days when her mother always left for work and left her alone. When she woke up, she saw Miyamura sitting next to her. He immediately said said as soon as Suda dramatically told him Hori was dying. He rushed over. Miyamura let her rest and started to leave the room, but Hori suddenly got up from bed, stumbled to the floor, and in a crying voice asked where he was going, leaving her. Miyamura calmly explained he was just going to the fridge to get water. He was not running away. He gently told her to lie down again and sleep a bit more, but Hori's mind was already somewhere else, remembering all those moments when her mother was not home when she needed her. Seeing her state, Miyamura held her hand and quietly promised that as long as she wanted, he would stay right here with her. He would stay. After a while, he thought Hori had fallen into a deep sleep, so he quietly got up to go home, but stopped at the door and softly admitted he loved Hori. As soon as he left the room, Hori immediately sat up. She was shocked that Miyamura actually said those words. She did not know what to do now, so she decided for now to just pretend she was still asleep. The next day, Hori pretended to be sick on purpose so she could skip school and calmly think about Miyamura's love confession. Meanwhile, on the way, Suda saw Miyamura with Shindo and his girlfriend and thought everyone was having fun together. When he got home, he immediately told Hori he saw Miyamura with a girl. Hori started asking question after question, so Suda said the girl was wearing another high school's uniform. Hearing this, Hori started to doubt if Miyamura was cheating. She tried to tell herself she should give him the benefit of the doubt, but when Suda also said they were walking arm in arm, Hori spent the night feeling confused. She thought many times about messaging Miyamura, but in the end decided to just spend the night feeling sad. The next day, when she came to class, Toru told her Miyamura had been very worried about her since yesterday. Even then, Hori went and sat on the other side of the class instead of joining them. After class, Toru told Miyamura that Hori seemed very stressed today, like she was purposely avoiding him. He asked if they had a fight, but Miyamura avoided the question, even though he understood everything inside. Later, Hori hid and wandered around the locker room to avoid running into Miyamura, but he came there himself and caught her red-handed. When Hori tried to slip away, Miyamura directly asked if she was awake that day. He said he knew she was not sleeping. That was why he said everything out loud so she would hear. Before she could answer, Hori directly asked, "Who is that girl?" She hoped Miyamura would have no idea who she was talking about, but her hope was crushed when Miyamura calmly asked, "You mean Chika, right?" Hori immediately got angry and thought maybe Miyamura and Chika were having an affair, but Miyamura quickly explained Chika was Shindo's girlfriend. What actually happened was that the girl tripped and fell and both twisted their ankles, so Miyamura just offered his arm to help her. Hearing this, Hori's face turned red with embarrassment and frustration, and with no words to say, she angrily threw her books at Miyamura and ran away like a full drama queen. At home, she kept thinking she overreacted, and now maybe both Miyamura and Toru would dislike her. At that moment, Miyamura came to her house to return her dropped books. Hori spoke hesitantly and very carefully, so Miyamura immediately felt she was upset with him. On the other side, Hori herself was embarrassed for making things awkward for him. Both apologized to each other at the same time, and then calmly sat down and cleared up the misunderstanding. While talking, the topic came back to Miyamura's love confession, and he admitted he was scared because he thought his heart would break if he heard Hori's answer. Hori was just about to answer when her long-missing father, Kiyusuke, suddenly entered the house and loudly asked where Yuriko was. Then he noticed Miyamura and started praising his piercings for fun. Hori immediately kicked her father straight and told him to put out his cigarette first. Then she went inside to make him something to eat. Miyamura thought he should give the father and daughter some time alone, but Kyosuke insisted Miyamura stay and started a full interview with him right there. When Kyosuke realized Miyamura was actually interested in his daughter, he first made a serious face and told him to stay away from his daughter, then immediately laughed and said he was just joking. Miyamura, surprised, asked why Hori called her own father by his name, so Kyosuke explained that Hori was their family name and her real name was Kyoko. He suggested Miyamura call her Kyoko too, but then said changing names now would feel strange. Then he directly asked Hori if Miyamura was really her boyfriend. Unlike before, this time Hori said yes without hesitation. Kyosuke announced he could not accept this relationship because Miyamura's hair was too long. Miyamura immediately said he would cut his hair, but Kyosuke said he did not want the hair to go to waste and told him to just tie it up. Then he seriously asked if Miyamura would really be good to his daughter. Miyamura confidently answered that he loved Hori. He was just about to start telling stories from his own high school days when Yuriko came in laughing and said there was not enough food in the house to make something extra for him. Later, Hori apologized to Miyamura for her father's behavior, but Miyamura smiled and said it was fine. He was not much different from his daughter. At that moment, Hori quietly held his hand, and finally, both of them got a peaceful, beautiful moment together. Miyamura gently said he still knew very little about her, but if she allowed, he wanted to know her more. After a while, when they reached the main road, Miyamura decided he would go home alone from there. He thanked Hori, and Hori quickly ran away before her sprinkler started again. After Hori left, Miyamura truly understood for the first time how hard it was to say goodbye and how fast the heart beat in love. On the other side, Toru was sitting at home solving math problems, but inside inside, he felt sad that he used to be the closest to Hori, and now things had changed. The next day, Sakura looked out the window and immediately understood. Toru was broken and sad inside. At that moment, Ayasaki came from behind and asked who she was looking at, so Sakura got nervous and ran straight to the kitchen with an excuse. Later, Ayasaki found her in the council room and clearly said Sakura had been acting strange lately. There must be something bothering her. When Sakura looked at Ayasaki's big eyes and slim Hori-like figure, she felt even weaker and more insecure about her own body. She thought to herself, Toru would never like a girl like her, got annoyed, and left without saying anything. On the way, she realized that no matter how she saw herself, Ayasaki had always been her best friend. She immediately ran back and gathered the courage to tell Ayasaki she liked someone, but because of her looks and body, she could not feel confident. Usually Sakura was very calm and serious, but seeing her so nervous and blushing today, Ayasaki laughed and said she looked very cute right now. Hearing this, Sakura felt much lighter and better inside. On the way, Hori and Miyamura ran into Toru and Sho. Sho distracted Hori with questions about English topics, and Toru used the chance to try to clear things up with Miyamura. Later, when Miyamura was at home studying English, Hori told him Suda had made a new friend, and his name was also Izumi, just like Miyamura's first name. Hearing this, Miyamura shyly said she should also call him Izumi, but Hori immediately got annoyed and scolded him for making things awkward for no reason. The next day, Suda asked Yusuke how many days he would stay, but he avoided the question with a laugh. When Yuriko asked the same thing, he got half emotional and asked if he was useless in this house. At that moment, Hori came home with Miyamura, and Kyosuke did not even recognize him. Seeing Miyamura already sweating, Kyosuke immediately suggested they should take a bath together, and from this behavior, it was clear why Yuriko had left him. He dragged Miyamura into the bath by force, and Hori heard screams from outside, as if Kyosuke was shocked after seeing some Yakuza tattoos. Later, Miyamura checked the time and saw it was 8 o'clock and said he should go home, but the whole family insisted and forced him to stay the night. In the end, he slept in the same room as Kyosuke, and Kyosuke used the chance to start asking him questions about Hori. When Miyamura said Hori did not judge people by their looks, Kyosuke was happy and fell asleep peacefully. The next morning, Miyamura woke up and saw Hori coming in wearing gym clothes and opening the curtains. Both got ready and walked to school together, and they did not know some classmates saw them leaving Hori's house together. Soon, rumors spread all over the school, and everyone started gossiping about them. Toru and Yuki both got annoyed by all the talk, especially Yuki, who overreacted to everything. Hori was dealing with all the boys she had rejected before, and Miyamura tried to just keep his head down and stay quiet. The next day, when Miyamura entered the class, everyone was shocked to see him. When he stood next to Hori, she was surprised to see he had cut his hair short. After a while, all the pick-me-type girls in class started falling for him, but Hori's cold, hard stare was enough to make everyone understand not to take the joke too far. Later, Shu won a prize for giving the most dramatic reaction, and Juan handed him a CD while he was half shocked, half excited, going crazy. Toru saw one girl secretly take a picture of Miyamura with her phone. On the way home, everyone was talking about Miyamura's new haircut, and even after reaching home, he got another surprising reaction. The real Oscar-level scene happened in the evening with Shindo, when he saw Miyamura's new look and actually started crying, as if the old Miyamura had died. He took a big bag out of his pocket and said he won a whole bag of sweets in a contest and now wanted to share them with everyone. While checking flavors, Miyamura found out Shindo hated cheese-flavored candy, so for fun, he forced Shindo to eat that candy. Shindo turned his face away and suffered through the taste with humiliation, while Hori tasted a dirt-flavored candy and made a face. At that moment, Miyamura suddenly took the candy out of her mouth and ate it himself, then immediately went out to get water before Shindo could see or understand anything. The next day, Miyamura saw a girl blaring at him angrily, but he could not recognize her. Meanwhile, Hori and Yuki were walking in the corridor when the same girl stood in front of them and directly asked Hori if all the rumors spreading in school were true. Without waiting for an answer, she ran away and started following Miyamura like a stalker. When Miyamura stopped and asked her what the problem was, she loudly asked in front of everyone when he was going to break up with Hori. Miyamura directly said, "Never." She introduced herself as Sawada from class 2-5, and in a threatening way, said she would be back. Later, when Miyamura was telling Hori about Sawada, she suddenly appeared again and started acting like she was in full control. Hori immediately showed her who was really in charge, so Sawada got nervous, turned red, and admitted she was in love. But it was not with Miyamura, she was openly in love with Hori herself. Toru was secretly listening to the whole thing and jumped in to enjoy the fun himself. Hori, worried, asked Miyamura to save her from Sawada, but the more she tried to pull away, the more Sawada clung to her, like they were fighting over who would swipe right on Hori's heart. Toru immediately messaged Yuki to come upstairs and watch the show live. Sawada refused to let go of Hori until the bell rang, and in the end, Miyamura almost had to drag her to class. After school, when Miyamura went out alone, Sawada suddenly appeared from behind a wall, still on her mission to find Hori somewhere. When Sawada found out Hori had gone home early today, she followed Miyamura instead. They walked down the same street, entered the same building, and took the same elevator, and then it turned out Hori actually lived just one street away from Miyamura. By chance, Sawada had forgotten her key in her school locker, so Miyamura invited her to his house and gave her cake to eat. She asked if anyone ever visited his house. Miyamura said even Hori rarely came here. When she asked if Miyamura had any siblings, he jokingly said his parents realized after having him that it was a big mistake, so they were careful not to have any more. Sawada said she thought Miyamura would have a little sister because he sounded very gentle in some things. Hearing this, Miyamura could not help but laugh. Suddenly, Sawada's tone changed and she sadly said she had a brother, then quickly laughed and said she was just joking. At that moment, her parents called and told her to come home. As she left, Miyamura told her she could come to his house anytime she wanted. Later, when Miyamura's mom came home, she told him Sawada's older brother died in an accident last year. Hearing this, Miyamura quietly thought about her until he fell asleep. The next day, he saw Sawada following him again. He tried to scold her and send her away, but as soon as some boys started teasing her, she immediately came back and stood next to Miyamura. This time, Miyamura scared those boys away with a cold, hard look. Then both of them waited for Hori. When Hori came, she saw Sawada and Miyamura arguing about who was closest to Hori. Later, Hori and Miyamura were sitting at Hori's house watching a movie where a girl was planning to kill her own father. Hori joked that she could relate to that girl, so Keisuke immediately got scared and went outside to smoke. As soon as he left, Hori directly asked why Miyamura never made a move on her. Miyamura had no idea Hori wanted to be physical with him. For a moment, both of them were lost in awkward embarrassment. Then Miyamura slowly leaned in to kiss her. But right at that moment, Keisuke came back, and Miyamura stood there asking to change the point. He ruined the whole mood, so Hori angrily gave him the beating he had deserved for days. A few days later, the whole group was buying DVDs at a store. Yuki could not find the one she wanted, while Hori picked up a DVD, so Miyamura took her to the counter. Seeing this, Toru felt a little jealous, and Yuki immediately noticed it. To cheer him up, she started showing him his favorite magazines. The next day, Yuki asked Toru to go throw out the trash with her. On the way, she said the DVD she was looking for was releasing today. Then she asked Toru to go to the store with her. And as she talked about it, Toru realized that since Hori and Miyamura got together, Yuki had been paying more attention to him. While talking, they turned a corner and Toru suddenly bumped into Sakura, getting a trash stain on her uniform. Toru immediately ran off to get something, while Yuki kept apologizing to Sakura. During this, they started talking, and Sakura asked Yuki if she was dating Toru. Yuki said they were just friends. At that moment, Toru came back holding a jacket. He wanted Sakura to wear it so the stain on her shirt would be hidden. Sakura got shy because she thought wearing a boy's jacket was a pretty personal and intimate gesture. Even so, Sakura accepted the jacket and, wearing it, went straight to the student council room, which surprised Sengoku, wondering why she came in like that. When he found out Ayasaki had already left, Sakura directly asked Sengoku what he liked about Ayasaki. Hearing this, he got even more nervous, because Sakura usually did not bring up such topics. After thinking a bit, Sengoku said Ayasaki was the type of girl who would keep tripping and falling in a horror movie, and he felt it was necessary to be there to support her. Maybe that was what he liked. In simple words, he saw how soft-hearted and delicate Ayasaki was, and he naturally wanted to protect her. He admitted he himself was also a bit weak, but Ayasaki's presence gave him the courage to do things he could never do alone. So in reality, without her, he would be a complete loser. After hearing all this about Ayasaki, Sakura realized she herself had always given him courage, but he never saw her that way. She decided now she would use her courage in the right place. The next day, she gathered her courage and stopped Toru in the hallway and returned the jacket she borrowed. She started to thank him, but at that moment, Toru's classmates called him from behind, so he quickly started to leave. Sakura loudly called him back and, shyly, gave him the cookies she had specially made for him. As soon as Toru opened the packet, he saw some of the cookies were pink Sakura flavor, and he immediately said he really liked Sakura. After he left, Miyamura watched all this from a distance and was happy that Sakura finally took the first step and made a good move to lighten her heart. Meanwhile, Yuki finally found the DVD she was looking for, but as soon as another girl asked for it, Yuki gave it to her. Hori immediately understood something was wrong. The next day, she asked why she and Toru were not hanging out together, so Yuki forced a smile and said Toru was now just busy eating cookies. Hori easily understood she was broken inside, because Yuki always hesitated to ask for what she wanted until it was already gone. Actually, Yuki was starting to have feelings for Toru, but Toru was slowly getting closer to Sakura. One day, Yuki asked Miyamura to teach her how to bake a cake, and he showed her the basic method. A week later, she brought burnt cupcakes and told both of them not to tell Toru, but Toru himself came to the roof and and ate the burnt cupcake. He said the taste was bad, but hoped it would be better next time, which gave Yuki more courage. A few days later, the group found out Miyamura had gone out of town to visit relatives and would not be at school for a whole week. Later, Miyamura messaged Hori that he had arrived safely, but immediately realized his battery was about to die. Unfortunately, he had forgotten his charger at home, so he could not contact Hori anymore. Meanwhile, Hori kept counting the days, and every night fell asleep, waiting for his message. The whole week passed, and Hori did not get any news from Miyamura. On the day he was supposed to return, there was news on TV about flight delays. Hori got worried and went straight to Miyamura's house to see if he had come back or not. The next day, Hori started pretending to be sick just to skip school and think calmly about Miyamura's love confession. Meanwhile, Miyamura reached home and charged his phone. As soon as it turned on, he realized how worried Hori had been because of him. He immediately ran out to meet her. They met in front of the elevator, and Hori hugged him tightly, saying he was back. The moment made both of them realize how painful it was to be away from someone you cared about. The next day, the girls were sitting in the student council room, and Hori told them Miyamura didn't like horror movies at all. They all gave her advice on how to get closer to him. Hori decided to try all this in the evening when Miyamura came to her house to watch a movie. Miyamura comforted her and said he liked Hori just the way she was. She didn't need any tricks or acting. Hearing this, Hori realized she also liked Miyamura for his real self. They both liked each other's true personalities, not fake things. When they saw it was raining outside, Hori gently said he should stay over tonight. That night, they got even closer and shared a special moment. The next day, Sota cried, thinking Miyamura would take his sister away from him, but Miyamura kindly assured him he would never do that. One evening, Miyamura remembered his middle school days, when he was a completely alone, defeated boy. He hated break time because every time it reminded him he had no friends. He was annoyed by teachers too, who made them do group work for every little thing. Looking back, he felt he didn't enjoy a single day of school, and he had no good memories from that time. He was so sad that sometimes he even thought about ending his life, but now he was truly thankful he didn't give up. If he hadn't endured, he wouldn't have met a friend like Shindo, wouldn't have made such good friends in high school, and most importantly, wouldn't have met Hori, who liked him just as he deserved to be liked. Meanwhile, Ayasaki thought about how weak-hearted Sengoku was. He often let people control him, laughed along to blend in with the crowd, but inside, he felt like a stranger. Sometimes he was happy with the attention he got, but most of the time, he was scared to face people. Despite all this, he tried to be strong only for Ayasaki, which made her truly happy. That's why she liked being with Sengoku, even though he was now a completely different person from the boy she first met. One day, Ayasaki entered school and saw two boys sitting with Sengoku, talking about girls. One boy said Ayasaki was pretty cute, but Sengoku carelessly said that even on her best day, she was just okay. After class, Ayasaki, feeling troubled inside, tried to start a conversation with Sengoku, and he showed her the book he was reading. When Sengoku found out Ayasaki also liked reading books, he brought her a book the next day and told Sakura to read it after Ayasaki finished. A few days later, he brought her more books and said his house was like a whole library. Ayasaki excitedly said she wanted to see it, so Sengoku immediately invited her to his house. At his house, Ayasaki picked up an old book about the end of the world and how people react to it. Sengoku asked her what she would do if the world ended tomorrow. Ayasaki laughed and said she would spend all her money on sweets. This surprised Sengoku. Then he complimented her ponytails, which immediately made Ayasaki's face light up with happiness. The next day, she returned all the books and talked more with Sengoku about the end of the world. Then Sengoku told her that his friend Kenmyoka had a crush on her, but Ayasaki brushed it off with a laugh and asked if she could come see his library again. Later, when Sengoku was getting books for her, Ayasaki stopped him and asked what he would really do if the world ended tomorrow. His answer surprised her. Sengoku said he would just tell her his true feelings and then turn to dust and disappear. Seeing him blush, Ayasaki quietly said she liked him too. Through exchanging books, talking, and understanding each other's small habits, Sengoku and Ayasaki grew so close that they finally fell for each other. In the present, Hori was giving Miyamura a manicure, but Miyamura couldn't stop himself from joking around, even though he knew well that Hori could break his bones. In the end, he couldn't hold back and playfully put his foot on Hori's head, then immediately got on his knees and apologized. Hori told him to relax, reminding him that he acted tough with boys, but always softened up in front of her. She told him not to hide his real feelings from her. Hearing this, Miyamura teased her back, asking if she really enjoyed this kind of behavior. Hori's mind immediately started thinking about Miyamura's dark side, and she was surprised herself by how much she liked the idea. The next day, Miyamura entered class acting overly happy and bouncy. Tora and Shuo both looked at him strangely. When Sengoku came to borrow his math notebook, he also realized Miyamura's mood was off today. Actually, Miyamura was practicing being nicer with boys, so he could gather the courage to act a bit tougher with Hori. Later, they went to an empty classroom, where Miyamura tried to act angry with Hori, but just then some girls walked in and thought he was bullying Hori, and immediately misunderstood the whole scene. At the same time, a passing student student stopped Yuki in the hallway and told her something that completely changed her mood. A little later, when Miyamura and Hori were talking about the rumors of their violent love, they both noticed Yuki wasn't okay. She looked distracted and sad. When asked, Yuki said that recently a boy had confessed to her and she didn't have the courage to reject him. The reason was, she didn't really know the boy, but she had to admit he really had Ohio Riz. She didn't want to break his heart, so Hori suggested she make Toru her fake boyfriend for a few days, so the boy would back off on his own. Yuki was afraid Toru wouldn't like the idea, but Miyamura immediately called and explained the whole plan, and Toru agreed right away. Later, Yuki explained that the one who confessed to her was Yanagi from class 6. Toru suggested that her fake boyfriend should be someone who looked better than him, but Yuki clearly said Toru looked even hotter than Yanagi, so the plan would work. Hearing this, Toru held her hand, and both of them went out to meet Yanagi, while Hori and Miyamura watched from the balcony. Yanagi came and apologized for being late, saying the teacher stopped him. Hori and Miyamura were both shocked when they saw him. Yanagi turned out to be so handsome that they both said at once he was 1,000 times hotter than Toru. Toru himself was so impressed seeing him that he thought to himself maybe he should just raise the pride flag for this one guy. Yanagi understood that Yuki and Toru were already in a relationship, so he smiled and left. Just then, Hori came running down and asked Yuki why she rejected such a good-looking guy. Yuki said she didn't like that type of boy, hiding the fact that she already had a crush on Toru. Later, Ayasaki told Yuki that as hot as Yanagi was, his eyesight was just as bad worse than grandma's, and he bumped into walls all the time. Hearing this, Yuki went to Yanagi to tell him he had mistaken her for Hori, who was much prettier. But Yanagi smiled and said she was completely wrong. He had been into Yuki for a long time. At that moment, the whole squad arrived, and because of Yanagi's weak eyesight, he mistook everyone for someone else, which started a light, funny mess. The next day, Hori made braids in her boy toy's hair to tease him. When the girls in class came to compliment Miyamura, Hori got jealous and slapped him for looking at them. She left the class without saying anything, and Miyamura noticed Masuzuchi watching them closely. Miyamura immediately followed Hori to make up with her, and Hori exploded in anger, saying those girls used to treat her badly, and now they were acting nice just because of his new haircut. On the way, she ran into Tanihara, the same guy who told Shindo in middle school to stop being friends with Miyamura. Tanihara and his friends started their old tricks again and said bad things about Hori too. Hori was already annoyed, so she took out all her anger on them, and for the next hour, her mood was fine. Later, Shindo ran into Tanihara at a restaurant whose face was swollen. When asked, he said he'd met Miyamura, and his girl had taught him a lesson because he was bothering Miyamura. Tanihara asked who the girl was, so Shindo told him she was Miyamura's girlfriend, Hori, and it was better if he didn't bother Miyamura again. Tanihara himself didn't understand why he pretended to dislike Miyamura, but he couldn't get him out of his head. On the other side, Miyamura was washing dishes with Hori. Seeing his sad face, Hori told him to cheer up, and thinking that he had someone who really cared about him, Miyamura forgot all his worries. The next day, Hori again insisted that Miyamura act a bit tough with her, but Miyamura refused every time. Suddenly, Shindo appeared, and Miyamura got scared. Shindo said he couldn't ignore a pretty girl like Hori. Hori had insisted too, so he was acting just like some dumb Twitch fan. Hori joined in the joke and complained that Miyamura didn't love her like before. Shindo teased Hori, but Hori immediately got serious and stopped him. Miyamura told her to come on, but she insisted he force her to go. Finally, Miyamura grabbed her hand and pulled her hard, scolding Shindo as he walked away. Shindo stood there, surprised. Meanwhile, Tanihara and his friends were hanging out near the convenience store when Hori showed up, and they all immediately got scared. A new guy who didn't know her started acting rude, but his own friends quickly shut him up. All the boys then started picking up trash from the street to save themselves from another beating by Hori. Tanihara explained to his friends that Hori was actually a scary type of girl, but as soon as Hori went to Miyamura, he playfully tapped her on the head, and seeing this, everyone got really nervous. Miyamura himself wondered why Hori wanted him to act like a strict house husband even before marriage. Tanihara also couldn't believe that the Miyamura who was so weak and bullied in middle school had changed so much. When Miyamura and Hori got home, Soda was about to go out, so Kyosuke told him to come back by dinner. Miyamura wanted to ask him for advice about relationships, so Kyosuke took him to the bathroom to talk in private. There, Miyamura told him that Hori liked a strange kind of behavior, like she wanted him to act strict with her sometimes. Kyosuke said maybe Hori was like that because she saw Miyamura's soft and good side every day, and now she wanted to see a bit of his bad side, or he talked to her in a sharper tone in front of everyone. Hori walked in on their conversation, so Kyosuke told her to go easy on Miyamura because he was really trying hard to make her happy. In response, Hori took out all her anger on him, saying a father who ran away from home had no right to give advice about relationships. The next day, Toru told Miyamura he went to karaoke with Shu, but Shu only sang fast rap songs. Just then, their classmate Mizuuchi got a juice from the vending machine but left without even saying hi. Miyamura thought maybe he was avoiding them because he liked Hori. At that moment, moment, Miyamura remembered he left his phone in the science lab, so he ran there. Mizuuchi was there too and helped by calling his number, but the phone was actually in Miyamura's back pocket, which annoyed Mizuuchi. While talking, Miyamura asked him if, for example, he ever fought with Hori. Could he ever hit her? Mizuuchi immediately said he couldn't even hurt Hori a little. A while later, they both ran into Hori, and Miyamura acted strict with her, which surprised Mizuuchi and left him totally confused. At night, Tanahara had a strange dream that he and Miyamura were stuck in a tight place surrounded by rabbits. When he woke up, he asked his friend for Miyamura's number. When he called, Miyamura didn't pick up, and he thought maybe Miyamura was ignoring him on purpose. The next day, Tanihara went to Miyamura's mom's bakery, but found out they were about to close, so he decided to come back later. As he was leaving, he mentioned he called yesterday, and Miyamura explained his phone was broken, so he couldn't answer. Tanihara realized Miyamura hadn't ignored him. Miyamura calmly and kindly said goodbye, and Tanihara admitted to himself that Miyamura wasn't as bad or weak as he thought. On his way home, Tanihara remembered the time in middle school when he was in charge of feeding the rabbits, but because of his carelessness, the rabbits died and he blamed Miyamura. Now, as an adult, he realized it was really his fault, and he thought if he had apologized to Miyamura back then, maybe their relationship would be different today. At the same time, Miyamura found Hori's middle school yearbook at her house, but Hori strictly told him not to open it at all. She asked him if he had thrown away his own yearbook, but Miyamura said he still kept it safe. Hori was very curious about what Miyamura was like in middle school, and she thought maybe Miyamura hated every day of that time. But Miyamura said now that life was better, looking at those old days made him happy because he had changed so much. Then he said he felt like he was becoming good friends with Mizuuchi recently, and surprisingly, even Tanihara was now trying to be friends with him. A few days later, the weather got colder, so Hori decided she would always go out wearing a scarf. Around this time, she and Miyamura bumped into Tanihara, and Hori, feeling jealous, started acting possessive with Tanihara. Tanihara got nervous and said not to worry. He and Miyamura weren't as close as she thought. He joked that if she wanted to be suspicious, she should watch Shindo, who often spent the night with Miyamura. Just then, Shindo showed up and proudly said he and Miyamura often slept over at each other's houses. Seeing Hori's mood, Tanihara quickly dragged him away, or there would have been real drama. After they left, Hori started worrying inside that some boy might steal Miyamura from her, and she told Miyamura that if they ever broke up, he could fall for a girl, but not for a boy. At school, Miyamura told Toru, Sho, and Sengoku to stay away from him for a while, because orders from above had come, meaning from Hori. Meanwhile, one day Yuki went shopping with her sister and ran into Yanagi, who was now wearing glasses. He asked what she was doing, and Yuki said she was out to buy art supplies for her sister. Just then, her sister arrived, and Yuki introduced her to Yanagi. The sister asked if Yanagi and Yuki were dating, and when she found out her clueless sister had rejected such a good guy, she was shocked. Later, Yuki apologized to Yanagi for her sister's harsh words, but Yanagi didn't mind at all. Yuki was happy to see Yanagi outside school, but Yanagi left quickly because he didn't want to upset Toru. Ever since Toru had pretended to be Yuki's boyfriend, people believed it was real, and Sakura was one of them. She had directly asked Yuki if she was really dating Toru, but Yuki couldn't tell the truth at that time. Feeling guilty, she told Ayasaki to tell Sakura the truth, but Ayasaki told her to think about it because she knew Yuki had feelings for Toru. Yuki remembered that when Sakura had asked her, Sakura's lips were shaking, so she wanted Sakura to know the truth. After Ayasaki left, Yuki broke down because she realized Toru only saw her as a friend. She remembered the moment when Toru first held her hand. She knew it was all just acting, but she still told Toru to keep pretending for a while. Yuki hoped that maybe, with time, Toru would start to like her, but now she understood it was all wrong. A few days later, the group at school talked about Yuki's absence. Miyamura thought maybe she was sick, but Hori felt something else was wrong because Yuki wasn't even replying to their messages. At home, her sister kept telling her to start going to school again, but Yuki just stayed quiet. Her sister remembered that Yuki had a bad habit of never saying what she wanted, so she encouraged her to speak her mind. She also said Yuki should keep making cookies and cupcakes because the last time she made them, they were actually good. After her sister encouraged her, Yuki finally turned on her phone and saw a flood of messages. After checking all the messages, she noticed Toru's message, where he wrote that Sakura had confessed her feelings to him. Reading this, Yuki was shocked, but she decided she would go to school the next day and somehow hold herself together. The next day, she tried to act completely normal in front of Hori, but Toru immediately realized something was wrong and asked to talk to her alone. He took her up to the school roof, and Yuki thought maybe now he would say it was time to end the fake boyfriend act. Toru mentioned Sakura's confession and said Sakura herself told him not to answer yet because she thought he and Yuki were in a relationship. Yuki asked why he didn't clear up the misunderstanding, and Toru said he thought it wasn't needed. She gathered her courage and asked if, without all this acting, he would ever really be with her, and Toru thought to himself that Yuki was way out of his league. Toru then tried to change the subject by asking why Yuki hadn't made cookies in a while, but Yuki's mind was somewhere else. Yuki thought about how Sakura made cookies for Toru, took a chance, and slowly got to the point of confessing her feelings, while she herself always ran away from her real emotions. Thinking about Toru and Sakura together hurt her, but at the same time, she was afraid Toru would never understand her true feelings. Toru then said, today was the coldest day of the year, and he hoped it would snow. Yuki reminded him that after snow, there's the pain of shoveling it all day, but Toru still kept supporting Snow. Seeing him talk so passionately about something made Yuki feel happy inside. Meanwhile, Sengoku thought Sakura had a boyfriend because she had looked very happy for the past few days. Ayasaki told him the truth was the complete opposite and left without explaining more. Later, when Sengoku was cleaning the council room, Sakura came in smiling. Just by looking at her face, he could tell that on the outside, she seemed fine, but inside, something else was going on. She went to the window and saw Yuki handing Toru a drink, so she quickly turned away. Sakura started to leave, but Sengoku stopped her and asked what was wrong. Sakura quietly said she didn't even get the chance to express her feelings, and she was already rejected. Hearing this, Sengoku was shocked. He said a few encouraging words, and then all of Sakura's hidden emotions came out. She stood there crying in front of him and, for the first time, let go of the weight on her heart. A few days later, Christmas was getting close, so Kyosuke told Hori to invite Miyamura to their house. When Hori invited him, Miyamura said he'd be really busy working at the family bakery and might not be able to come. Hori didn't push him and said it was fine. But Koyusuke and Soda didn't accept this. Both of them kept insisting Miyamura had to come for Christmas, and Miyamura got so nervous that he ran away just to escape them. Later, Sho and Sengoku were hanging out with Toru, and Toru started talking about his feelings for Hori. In the middle of the conversation, he let it slip that he and Yuki weren't really dating, which made Sengoku angry because Sakura had even cried over that misunderstanding. But Toru explained that he actually liked Yuki. Hearing this, Sengoku advised him that as long as both of them were okay with the situation, he should just let it be. The next day, Yuki came to Toru and asked if she could come over to his house to play games. Toru first agreed, but then quickly said no, that he had some plans. Before Yuki could say anything else, he changed his mind again and said okay, she could come. Yuki got confused, but still went to his house. When they got to the house, Toru started acting strange. He told Yuki to walk slowly and sneak around, which made Yuki think maybe he was hiding her from his parents. Then, Toru locked the door and took off his tie, and Yuki got nervous, thinking he might want to play some weird kind of truth or dare. Toru quickly realized Yuki was getting anxious, so he opened the door and told her to relax. He wasn't going to do anything weird with her. Yuki said she was totally comfortable with him, and after hearing that, both of them blushed and their cheeks turned red. Just then, Toru's mother tried to come into the room, so he held the door to keep Yuki out of sight. When she wouldn't go away, Yuki said if it was a problem, she could just leave. But Toru told her firmly that she wasn't going anywhere. Finally, the woman came into the room, greeted Yuki, and then left to get snacks for them. After she left, Toru explained that she wasn't his mom, but actually the house helper, Yashiro. He was avoiding her because she always asked him a lot of questions about Yuki. Just then, Yashiro came back and asked if they wanted shortcake or cheesecake. Yuki picked cheesecake, and as she left, Yashiro warned Toru not to try anything weird with Yuki. Toru replied that when she was sitting next to him, he wouldn't even touch her, and Yuki immediately thought that maybe if they were alone, he'd even clean her pipes. Seeing Yuki get nervous again, Toru patted her head to calm her down, and the two of them started playing games on his console. A while later, Yashiro brought tea, and they immediately recognized it was from Miyamura's bakery. On the other side, Sengoku entered the student council room, and when he saw Ayasaki, he dropped all his papers. It turned out Ayasaki had been inviting him to her house for Christmas for days, but Sengoku kept avoiding it. When he refused again, Ayasaki started crying, and both Hori and Toru scolded him for acting so badly. They asked why he didn't want to go to her house, and Sengoku explained that Ayasaki's room was full of all kinds of scary bugs that frightened him. A while later, Yuriko asked Hori for her report card, and was happy to see she got A grades in almost every subject. She gently reminded her this was a special moment, because next time she got her mark sheet, she'd be close to graduation. Hearing this, Hori realized how fast time had passed, and she started thinking about what her life would be like after graduation. On Christmas Eve, Yanagi ran into Yuki's sister, who noticed he wasn't wearing glasses. Yanagi said he got contact lenses, so she thought she should get some too. Yanagi immediately offered to go with her to buy them, and the two of them left together. Meanwhile, Tanihara was arguing with his brother. Toru was busy somewhere else, and Yuki and Shu were helping Moto prepare for her high school entrance exam. Sengoku was still avoiding going to Ayasaki's house, and Sakura was trying her best to change his mind. Shindo was sad that Chika would graduate a year before him, but Chika promised she would wait for him no matter how long it took. At Hori's house, she told her father that Miyamura couldn't come today and would only drop off the cake later, but when he actually showed up, Hori's whole family insisted he come inside and eat cake with everyone. An hour later, Miyamura said he really needed to leave, but Hori's whole family kept trying to stop him. Finally, Hori herself walked him out, but Miyamura immediately noticed she was lost in deep thought. Hori still had graduation on her mind. She said that even after spending so much time together, there was still a lot she didn't know about Miyamura, even though she wanted to know. Hearing this, Miyamura remembered the time he had said the same thing to Hori. Then Hori quietly admitted she wanted them to keep dating even after graduation. She asked Miyamura for an answer, and Miyamura dropped a bomb. He said they should get married. Seeing Hori's reaction, Miyamura immediately thought about running away, but Hori stopped him and said she would make him happy for the rest of his life. The two of them shared a beautiful moment. Just then, Miyamura got a call from his mom, and he ran off toward the bakery, while Hori stood in the cold night, lost in the warmth of that moment. Later, Yuki and Hori talked about their upcoming graduation ceremony, and Hori saw that Yuki had stuffed all her things into her locker. When she started helping her, Toru joked that Hori was acting like Yuki's mom. When they realized they all had a lot of stuff, they also made Hori help them clean up. At that moment, Sho showed up, and Hori saw he had nothing. Sho explained he took his stuff home every day, so nothing was left. But he had given Miyamura and Yuki a bunch of DVDs, which they still hadn't returned. Since Hori herself had nothing, everyone dumped their extra stuff on her, which made her annoyed inside. Meanwhile, in the student council room, Sakura saw Ayasaki reading a travel magazine about the zoo. Just then, Yanagi and Sengoku came in, so she asked if they all wanted to go to the zoo. Sengoku said the zoo in the magazine was pretty far, so they'd have to make it a 2-day trip. Then they said they'd need a car and a hotel too, and Ayasaki got even more excited about going together. Yanagi asked why she was pushing so hard for this trip, but Ayasaki avoided the question and tried to sneak out. But Sakura caught her and playfully tickled her until she admitted the truth. It turned out Ayasaki was afraid that after graduation, everyone would start their own lives, and maybe everyone, including Sengoku, would forget about her. Sakura comforted her, saying they would all stay friends after graduation and no one would forget anyone. To encourage her, Yanagi promised that as soon as he got his driver's license, he'd take everyone on a road trip. Meanwhile, after getting tired from constant schoolwork, Hori fell asleep under the stairs. She called out to Miyamura, so Miyamura immediately came over and let her sleep with her head on his lap. Miyamura noticed that even in her sleep, Hori sometimes frowned, as if she was worried, and thought that if she kept doing that, she'd get wrinkles on her forehead. Seeing Hori sleeping peacefully in his lap, Miyamura thought he wished days like this would keep coming even after graduation. Suddenly, he wondered how different life would have been if he'd never met Hori that day. In his mind, he imagined a whole world where none of them became friends, and he himself was still that lonely, sad boy nobody knew. Just then, Hori woke up, and Miyamura told her what he was thinking. Hori said everything happened exactly as it should have. It was all fate. She sat in Miyamura's lap, listening to him, and Miyamura remembered all the beautiful memories that came into his life because of Hori friends, happiness, and the new Miyamura he became. On graduation day, the student council president, Sengoku, came on stage to give the farewell speech. While Sengoku was giving his farewell speech in the silent hall, Miyamura suddenly sneezed loudly. The silence broke, Sengoku got flustered, and the whole class couldn't stop laughing at Miyamura. As soon as the speech ended, Sengoku angrily chased after Miyamura like it was a game. While running in anger, he bumped into Toru, and Miyamura took the chance to escape to the roof. Standing on the roof, Miyamura talked in his mind to his lonely self, who never made friends in high school. He thought that if things had gone differently, he would still be that same lonely Miyamura. That lonely Miyamura, from far away, seemed to congratulate him for graduating and changing his life, and now he would disappear forever. Just then, a classmate came and told him to come down, because it was time for the class photo. Meanwhile, Sawada was crying because she wouldn't be able to see Hori at school every day anymore. A little later, Toru and Sakura met in the hallway. Sakura asked if he had seen Ayasaki anywhere. The atmosphere became a bit awkward, but Sakura smiled, reached out her hand in friendship, and said Toru played a big part in making this year fun. She admitted she liked both Toru and Yuki, and promised she would always remember them, then ran away a bit embarrassed. She didn't know that Yuki had heard everything from behind, and Yuki felt sad thinking Sakura never got to fully say what was in her heart. At the same time, Yuki met Yanagi, and they congratulated each other on graduating. Yanagi reminded her they had planned a road trip in the future, and told her to definitely come along with them. When everyone was leaving the school building, Kiyosuke arrived and congratulated Miyamura on graduating. The others thought maybe he was Miyamura's father. Hori got nervous seeing her dad there, and started scolding him like a little kid. Meanwhile, Moto came to Sho and was surprised to see his different, lighter side that he only showed in front of friends. Later, Miyamura and Hori walked home hand in hand. On the way, Miyamura thought about how he used to be afraid of getting close to anyone, and he believed relationships only brought pain. But with time, he understood that connecting with people started to change his life, and before he could even realize it, he had truly fallen in love with Hori.